Welcome back, everybody. It is AJ back. The 27th day of September 2025, Saturday. It is, for the record, 18:31. So, the previous video I was talking about the basically the green energy scam. Focusing on the solar, and I gave the first order analysis based on 7.2 kilowatt peak system, that is DC, and you can basically power your average size home between 7.2 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt, roughly costing between $30,000 to $40,000 for a grid tied system. And then if you want to basically go to the next system technology in terms of hybrid, because a grid tied, basically grid down, even though you have sunshine, the solar system will not operate because of regulation as well as by design. So now the next step up would be basically going hybrid, another $5,000 basically markup, because you're getting a technology that would allow your house to be disconnected from the grid in the event of a power loss, and via the ATS I mentioned, automatic transfer switch. So you have the grid coming on port A, and you solar on port B, and then the ATS automatic, or it could be manual. Basically you can simply just switch to the solar automatic via ITS, automatic transfer switch, or manual, like I said. Now you need a energy storage solution and a battery. I mentioned your typical 14 kilowatt hour. You can, depends where you get the source and where you source your battery, but in Canada everything has to be certified by a Canadian Standard Association, CSA, and approved by the basically the Electrical Safety Authority, ESA, which oversees basically the regulation as to how you connect your system, private system, to national grid, which is public infrastructure. This is why there's rules and regulation, and up to 10,000 watts or 10 kilowatts peak. It's a straightforward process, provided you have the funds, and then you'd have to go through the energy audit. Cost you $600 on average for someone to come into the house and do energy analysis assessment, and basically tells you what you could do to essentially increase the efficiency of your home. So how you increase efficiency is either you reduce the losses, so efficiency goes up, or you add more sources that would basically allow you to offset your carbon footprint. Because if you are using the national grid, if you're on Ontario, it is they say 90% fossil fuel free. So we have 55% on average nuclear, 25% hydro. So that gets us to the 80%, 10% renewable, so that's 90%, and then the last 10% they call it for dispatch, so peak demand. So this is where they dispatch a gas power plant, and LNG we have roughly 10%. Ontario is roughly, when you look at the power demand and consumption, believe it is the order of 150 terawatt hour. Alberta is roughly half of that at 86 terawatt, but Alberta terawatt hour. So, but Alberta is 80% fossil fuel, and the last 20%, 10% renewable, and 10% biofuel, and what have you. So yeah, I've done the analysis on the grid, and now, which brings me to my public, basically, pitch. And I've been talking about this for the last almost now 2 years, actually, since June 2023. I've been sharing my analysis and the research on basically net zero, and from a policy point of view, but also from a basic math, energy, right? I mean, the math has to add up, and you are being bamboozled into believing that suddenly a heat pump, which is nothing but a compressor that operates in two directions for heating and for cooling, and it depends on, basically it employs the thermal cycle, where it's very simple. If you understand basic thermodynamics, if you had gone to university to study mechanical or aerospace, you will be basically doing thermodynamics, and it's bound by one equation, Q equal MC delta T. So now when you're looking at the data sheet, it tells you the heat pump loses up to 80% efficacy, right? That is effectiveness to actually harvest energy from the ambient air. So if you live in Alberta at minus 30, minus 40 degrees, which is normal, basically the air heat pump, right, will not work. So now we have to get to a gas-fired heat pump. They call it gas-fired heat pump. So essentially, you are burning gas outside, and that gas is being burnt into, basically, it's heating a medium called ammonia, right? NH3. So this is used as basically a defreezer, because at minus 30, minus 40, the pipes will freeze. So you need to add antifreeze, and that's what ammonia essentially does. It alters the chemical composition of the regular water, and depending on how much you dilute, you get flashing point. So you have to be aware of the condition of the where you're installing your gas-fired heat pump, right? And now it has to go from minus 40 degrees if you're in Alberta, say, to plus 60 degrees. That's 100 degrees delta. And you can, on average, pure water is roughly 4.2 kilojoule per kilogram per degree. So you need 4.2 kilojoule per 1 kilogram of water to actually raise the water temperature by 1 degree. It's called specific heat. Whereas when you add now ammonia, or ammonia, basically NH3 solution, they call it I forget the name now, it's not coming to me, but essentially it's you dilute the water with NH3 ammonia, and that basically reduces the specific heat to 3.75. That's the average I'm giving you right now. And from there you can calculate how much energy you need to actually take water, which is the medium you're heating, through basically the coil, and there's a flame that is basically running as you burn natural gas outside your home. And normally you would have your natural gas furnace installed in the basement, and the basement nominally sits at 15 degrees, and when you heat your home space for 25, roughly, say, that's 10 degrees difference only. And then you can basically get your a fan blower, and that goes through your central ducting system, where basically you can distribute heat, right? Same thing for central air conditioner. Now, you don't have to be an aerospace electronic system design engineer to understand that when you have MC, M being the mass, C is specific heat, and the only thing is delta T, clearly Q will change, because Q equal MC delta T. Q is the heat required to do what? Raise 1 kilogram of substance, and we are using water, 4.2 kilojoule per kilogram for 1 degree. Now we're gonna go to heat up to plus 60. Why do I say it's plus 60? So minus 40 to plus 60 is 100 degree. Outside is minus 40. Inside of your home, you need to shower. That's 60 degrees. Hot water tank essentially is set to, because anything hotter than that is going to burn yourself. So there are rules and regulations that for safety reasons, they do not have the hot water tank to go above 60 degrees. You can go and mess with the settings, if you will, but you're just having larger storage tank that is going to keep the water at a higher temperature, which could burn yourself, and nobody's running the hot water all day long. So one roughly 100 gallon is 300 and roughly 30 liters. That's a huge mass, man. 1 liter is 1 kilogram, so you can just imagine how much you need. And do the calculation. It's basic math, and again, it does not require a high mathematics, calculus, and what have you. We're not doing transition state. We're simply looking at the average. What are we looking for in terms of this mass to heat and this water mass to heat from minus 40 to plus 60, so we can serve the household needs, right? So now basically what I have for the last 2 years, after sharing my and exposing the green energy scam and the net zero unlawful carbon tax, which cost Canadian $1 trillion from 2018. They first introduced 2.4 cents per liter, and by the time the act had become an act in 2021, net zero act, basically they had managed to be at roughly, I think, 7 cents, because you pay per emission per capita, right? So Canada in 2012 they signed on Paris Accord, but they used 2000, I believe, 5, if I'm not mistaken, as a reference baseline. So that's when Canada was roughly 33 million people, 2007, and per capita we are 20 metric tons, so you get to roughly 732 megaton, right? Mega for a million, and metric ton, so MT CO2, right? That's the unit, and we were the highest. Now we have managed to offset. They did not offset anything, because anytime you need to produce, efficiency law suggests that the process is not going to be 100% efficient. So you're always going to add more energy than the output. But that all depends what you're trying to actually achieve. So again, with conservation of energy and what have you, everything has to add up. The math has to add up. And this is where we get into leverage, where basically, if you have a 1,000-pound rock and you can only exert 200 pounds of force, well, you are unable to basically move the rock 200 less than 1,000. So an intelligent person, perhaps, or a simpletron can easily get a cantilever or a tree log, and ratio 1 to 5. So you place a wedge next to the rock that you're trying to move. 1,000 pound, 1 meter is 1,000 pound torque, right? That's basically what you get. Torque is arm times force. That's torque. And then you, on the other hand, have 5 meters times 200, 1,000 pound, and hallelujah, you are able now to move the rock. And once the rock start moving, all you need to do is put minute energy relative to the initial starting energy that is required to move that and overcome the gravity, mass, inertia, what have you. So using the same principles, well, I went back to the drawing boards as I realized that solar is nothing but a scam. So is wind. I figured, well, we can actually manufacture a box. I call it the blue magic box. So Mahakakaha, right? Mahakakaha, right? For magic box in Spanish. So yeah, essentially it's 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, right? A box 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. So that's a 12 cubic feet, right? Magic box, blue magic box, 24 hours, 7 days, 364 days a year. Clock, right? Around the clock, right? Around the clock. That provides you on-demand energy, off-grid. That's why it's free energy. It's off-grid. It's not because it's free. It's going to cost me money, obviously, to build this device. But on average, you would spend, a average home, roughly 960 to 1,200 square feet. When you include the common element, you are looking at roughly 95 to 105 gigajoule, right? Which translates to roughly, anywhere between 25 to 27. It all depends. So roughly, it's 27,000 kilowatt hour per year. And that, again, that's on average. Some are less, some are more. It all depends on the size of the house and what you are running. But equivalent is 105 gigajoule. 2/3 of that energy goes towards home heating, space heating, and then 1/3 towards basically basic electricity, right? Needs. And that, again, that ratio vary depending on if you have full electric. In my case, I have a townhome with full electric baseboard heaters. I don't have central air conditioner or central heating, so baseboard. And the peak, I use 7.2 kilowatt during prime and peak cold winter. So, but on average, the average home does not use more than 1 kilowatt per hour. So if you have 24 hours, that's 24 kilowatt hour a day. Now, clearly, if you are coming home after rush hour or in the morning trying to get to work, well, there are more activity, there's more usage and consumption. This is why when you pay your hydro bill, if you don't live under a rock, you have something called time of use or tiered based system, or you can have basically a contract with a fixed rate. So again, the choice is yours. The energy. Now you have another option, because so far, if you live in the city, you only have one option, which is the grid. If you do not have the grid option, then basically you're gonna go run diesel standby power generator, as well as solar panels that takes prime from and real estate, as well as the technology is not really proven just yet. I mean, you get 30% failure. I mean, this is industry metrics, not ages metrics. This is 30%. So when they tell you solar in Canada, for example, we can get up to roughly 2,100 hours, right? And say Alberta and what have you, Ottawa does not get more than 1,350 of sunshine, so to speak, on average. So that's why when you say you can assume it's a 1,000 watt per 1,250. So you take 80% of that, so it's 1,000 watt per available sunshine. So again, when you have to spend the order of roughly $40,000 at a minimum, right? And then if you want to go upgrade to the next system up hybrid with a battery pack, you're looking at $65,000 only for the system to degrade over time. And granted, for the next 10 years or less, you will be going through a new inverter or a new micro inverter, because it's failure rate. You have to basically go through a string inverter, or you go through micro. The difference is micro, you can easily monitor on a panel level individual output, right? But what does it matter? I mean, if the technology works, it should monitor. But again, this is an app, and you get to interact with the app and watch the curve and how much panels, and can help with diagnosis and debug. But at the end of the day, it costs more money. This is why solar farms, commercial scale, they do not use microinverters. They use simply what? They use string inverters because they are more proven in technology. They have been hardened. It's longer time using central inverter versus microinverters, which are at a panel level. And again, you have to size and go about respecting the voltage input requirements as well as the current rating, because else you'll be burning your overloading your inverter. So remember, you have 16 panels for average 7.2 kilowatt system at 450 watts, peak. Then the sun is going to rise, and it's not until maybe like later when the sun is sunshine is strong, is intense enough, have enough intensity to basically generate enough voltage, right? That basically the panel will conduct, and essentially that's how solar panels operate. So the photons essentially they go and they hit the semiconductor material, and then that's basically doped certain ways, and those basically the photons enable the charge carrier, right? Just like photosynthesis with the trees, you got the same thing happening with the semiconductor, and the way it's designed essentially to create this channel between the source and the drain when the gate is biased, right? Gate, that's CMOS for you, right? So just like a photodiode, you have essentially well, that's what they are, right? They, instead of emitting diodes, like light emitting diodes, you have also photodiodes, which basically they absorb light, and this is what a CIS, or basically capture imaging sensor operates, CMOS, right? Again, this is a lot of information for the average Joe, but from your point of view, it's a very simple proposal. You can spend $100,000 on average over 25 years, and that is going to be basically coming out of your pocket. Paying the grid on average is 4.5% year-over-year hike, right? I've done the analysis, I've done the math, I shared it on my blog. In 2007-8, we were paying the order of aggregate 8 cents, right, on average, and that's basically it's average because it was time of use versus the subsidy versus the taxes, transmission, delivery fees, or what have you. So it's 5 cents, and now it's 8 cents because of all other charges. Now we're paying roughly 21 cents. Yes, 21 cents per kilowatt hour versus 8 cents back in 2007, right? And you can do the math. It's over the last 18 years or so, it's roughly 4.5% interest rate, right? So understand, if you end up paying, and you are going to pay $100,000 over 25 years, whereas I'm offering you another option for 1/10 of the price, so $10,000. That's my cost. If you're an early adopter, investor, or a client, well, there's a security deposit that you'd have to pay. So I can basically offer you the product that I say it's going to give you 24 hours, 7 days a week, 364 days a year, essentially, energy, on-demand energy, off-grid, up to 7.2 kilowatts rated. But again, we can assume 80% of that because, you're not going to get the peak. So 7.2 times 80%, so you get 5.6 kilowatts, which is plenty, more than enough to, I'm here with my mom, and she's got this 400 square feet, right? Well, that's all she needs, it's more than enough for her needs, and again, other people. So now we are, going into the winter, and we have energy crisis and the energy costs going up and up and up. Well, I'm in a prime, position and market to basically, offer my product and open source. I'll be more than happy to release it to everybody because there's a man before me called Nikola Tesla. It's not like, only AJ is the genius here. There's many other geniuses out there. The problem is this. If you are, going to challenge an entire industry, entire ecosystem of market, well, guess what? You'll be eliminated. It's that simple. I mean, I've been going through court motion. I've survived, an assassination attempt, being tasered, a high energy weapon. If you don't understand what high energy weapon is, well, guess what? 50,000 volt. It goes between point A and point B and conducts through basically your, your skin. You have resistance. So you have this floating charge, right? When you are not grounded, and then they have to give 2 points, because if you just with 1 point, you're nothing is going to happen. You need to be basically a voltage potential difference between point A and point B, and that is using your body as the medium. So basically, guess what? You can fry someone's hearts. So and this is getting into a high energy weapon. When you talk about technology. Look, it's like a sword. You swing it one way, you can in aggression you can hurt or kill somebody. But if you swing the other way in defense, and this basically you save a life. Again, it's not about technology being the culprit. It's not the technology is the issue. It's the intention. It is the power to be where who controls the actual access to those technology, because all this technology that we have today would not have been made possible without the public trust. What's the public trust? Well, that's your taxpayers, the grants and all the money that the government donates on your behalf, because you're the goyim, you are the useless eaters that perhaps do not know how to run your own life, let alone run an entire country, right? So now these stooges, they treat you as a minor, and basically you have your social security number or social insurance number in Canada as a security, basically, that is used in the bond market, and there's $100 million that basically each individual person, essentially, they have in their trust that is now being safeguarded and authorized by the local government, in this case the federal government in Canada. And this is why basically they manage these trusts. You have a social trust account registered in your name and your SIM card or social security number. It's a 9-digit number. Now you can always claim that because you are the sole authorized, right? You're the sole authorized chief executor as well as the trustee. Right? Nobody's authorized. You're only giving consent to the government to go into this trust account and doing what they want to do. And when you go to the slammer and you have to get a duty card, it's not like somebody else is paying your bill. You're paying your own bill. There's again public trust. So when the government, the federal government worldwide, they have their own kind of duty, fiduciary duty towards their citizen or the inhabitant of the land. There's what are citizens? I mean, not every single person is a citizen, so to speak, because not everybody has a passport. You're a citizen because you live in the land, and there's a fiduciary duty. There's by default, there's that trust law, right? Trust law. I keep talking about the trust law. Government the trustee being the government, so government, trustee, and then this basically how they have parliament. So you have government and parliament. So you basically going to have laws and order because you need some sort of laws, and that's basically acts of parliament, legislatures, right, or Congress or senates, what have you. And the bill goes through the motion to being voted on, and pending the outcome of the vote, well, that becomes an act. But remember, an act can always be amended. This is why they are not laws. They are only nothing but man-made mandates. Man-made laws, mandates. Why? Because those are always amended. And by definition, laws are only laws if they can stand the test of time. And that is universal. So this is why gravity is gravity. It's it's a gravity. It's force. We can say it's mg. Mass times g. What's g? 10g. 10. You don't have to be 9.8. Well, just call 10. It's good enough. It's enough accuracy for just first order analysis at least, and that's life. First order analysis. So there's a lot here to talk about, and fundamentally for me, it's it's not like to give someone a pitch, you have to understand, give them a context, because now when you put money dollar value to what is happening, well, suddenly people are listening. The energy market in Canada alone is roughly $520 billion or half a trillion. Mostly comes from Alberta, right? 80%, 90% of that comes from Alberta and Saskatchewan. That's it. Saskatchewan maybe a little bit, but the point is this. This is why Saskatchewan and Alberta are prime candidate provinces to basically becoming the 51 state of America, because Trump also is a calculated businessman. But why go invade their land when you cannot do so under international law, because Canada is a sovereign country, so to speak, nation, Canadians, right? And the borders are, you can open Google Map and you can find where Canada is, right? The sovereign is that schmuck sitting up in London, UK, the royals, the troyals, I call them, right? Why? Because remember, up until 1982, right, the Canadian had their basically parliament headquarter all the way in London, UK, and that is not justified. So they had to patriate and bring the parliament to Ottawa, because now you need to represent politics has to represent the people of the land. Not some schmuck elsewhere need to, basically look after the interests and needs of the people and natural, indigenous people or native people living in the land. This is why under Section 92 of the British North American Act in 1867, right, this is where Canada was first established under the Dominion of Canada, right? You had 4 provinces, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, so forth. And essentially, Quebec being the, spoiled brat, so to speak, right? Spoiled child. And then 1982, we patriated, the Canadian patriated their constitution and parliament from UK, and they brought it back to Ottawa, right? And that was only possible under bylaws called the Constitution Act of Canada, because we had gone through the Bill of Rights. There was a FLM, like the separatist movement in Quebec, the Quebecois, and Quebec ended up with a nation status because they have their culture and their language. Okay, great. Well, we have plenty of people in Canada that do not subscribe to being Quebecois, and they are proud Canadians and proud of their ethnicities and cultures and what have you. So there's no discrimination here. So this is the self-right determination. And again, in my case, I came stateless to this land, in pursuit of life and happiness, under fundamental, unalienable natural rights and freedom that everybody, is granted at birth. I cannot, impose and lock you up and prevent you from, pursuing your life and happiness. And when the government does that, they're in breach of trust because, again, trust law, right? Trustee, administrative, or the executive arm of the government, and then you have the AB or accused versus the beneficiary. So you, as a citizen, because remember it's a privilege, but if you have to be a law-abiding citizen to enjoy these benefits and privileges that the corporate citizenship, right, corporate governance of Canada, allows you, or basically, it's like a VIP club, right? So now, when there's breach of trust, and the breach of trust means that the government has done you wrong, and this is why I'm speaking about my ordeal and my court cases and what is happening, because I believe AJ, aka Ahmed Jr., right, and I gave the accused details in other videos, and this video is just basically tying everything together and how life is all about, because you don't need to go to university to understand basic rules and laws and hierarchy, right? So triangle, you have supreme, right, supreme law of the land, provincial, and then municipal, administrative. So that's why there's a registry, there's a birth. So if you imagine there's a line here, right, there's a living and there's a dead, right? So when someone is born, well, they have to register. You have to register that child, take a footprint, or the way, the name, and the placenta. That's your dead twin. It goes and it registers that now you have a birth certificate. Hallelujah, SIM card. You don't need to have a SIM card when you're first born. You haven't. You barely can. Have some milk. All you is like shit yourself and you have milk. That's all you. Up until you reach the age of almost majority, like you can start working at the age of 16, but the age of majority here is 18, 19 for you to go grab a cigarette. Nobody can sell you a cigarette because that would be unlawful if you're a minor, right? So anyways, so I'll tend to touch on many topic and subject because it's like a story. It's story time with AJ. My daughter has not seen her dad for over a year. I can't stop thinking about my daughter and how I was wrongly done by a system that is rigged against you, the natural man, because they are in breach of trust and they know it. But they try to just make it appear that they actually have a legitimate court system, whereas the judiciary is clearly rigged and biased towards the highest bidder. So if you have money, you'll go and hire a lawyer. A constitutional lawyer will cost you $25,000, $15,000 retainer. For what? Just to send the email that I'm doing. I'm just filling a form that says, I need to raise my matter before the lower court too. Right? You have to take the elevator, go up. Right? So lower court, provincial, superior court, that is, which is common law. This is common law. This is civil code. Secular, common law, right? Natural. That's why the Constitution must what? Protect and safeguard the unalienable natural rights and freedom that are integral to the, livelihood and well-being. So quality of life. And then you follow the Supreme Court of Canada because, you have different jurisdiction. You have Ontario, Quebec, what have you, 10 provinces by 1982 and 3 territories. Now, the laws in Quebec are different than those in Ontario, but on a federal level, we follow the same federal RSC 1985 CC 46 for the criminal code. So when someone cites you an offense, remember, you are now being charged with a criminal offense. Automatically, you have the right to appear before a public trial with a jury. It is within your rights, constitutional rights, public and a fair trial. It's not like, oh, you're guilty, put him in the slammer before we verify the facts. You have to have a ground. You have to have a primary ground. Why are you detaining this person? Why are you depriving this man or this accused of his unalienable natural rights and freedom? You have to have a primary ground. But now when you fabricate primary and secondary territory grounds, you're just crutching. You're just crutching, and that's my case. They're crutching on, falsehood, on weak foundation. And when you have the crutches deep in the mud, it's only a matter of time before you all sink. And that's what's happening. So now I'm application before the Supreme Court of Canada because I don't consent to their fuckery. It's that simple. You cannot subject me and subject your rules and man-made laws on a citizen that had done nothing. Except you are now in breach of trust. So you've taken my passport for identification purposes, but you never returned my passport. It is gone missing now. All right, well, fuck you and the passport. I'm getting a travel document. I get to travel anywhere I want in this land, on this earth, and you're paying for it. Remedies. Before remedies can take place, we have to assert, right? Section 52 of the subpart 1 of the Constitution, right? 1982 is the supremacy clause. That is, any child law here or here cannot essentially break the parent law. That is, Constitution of Canada. Right? And the parent, you go back to that's 1982 at least for you, Section 52. But then part of that you have Section 24, which is basically exclusion of evidence. And I'm demanding the exclusion of evidence from the epoch. November the 17th day, 2023. I don't give a shit. Anything that you have acquired from that day on is unlawful. I did not consent. If you ever got my fingerprints, it's not because I gave it to you voluntarily. You coerced me, and I had to choose my battle. So that's that. And then, as we go on life motion, for the last 2 years almost, my life has been upside down. Not because of the choices I made. It's because I'm standing for my natural rights and freedom. I believe I have the right to defend and stand before the Supreme Court of Canada on criminal allegations that are nothing but falsehood and fabrication of lies and facts. So I've got the body, right? I got the body, right? Fresh out of jail. Like last week I was in jail, and 2 days ago when I went to the fucking courthouse on the 25th of September, that was my court date that they had set trial date back in December the 12th, 2024. And I've been anxiously waiting because I have been repeatedly requesting that my matter move to the higher court. There's no reason for me to go to the lower court. I don't consent. They have no jurisdiction. Why talk to one judge when I can talk to a panel of a jury, right? Public trial with a jury and a judge, so they can basically make sure. So and this is kind of the thing where if you are new to Canada and you do not speak the language and you have been bamboozled with life matters because the last thing is on your mind is to be assaulted by the very peace officers that they are stepping outside their own jurisdiction. Peace officer in Ottawa carrying a taser? I don't think so. So now they fabricated some sort of a statement telling me that the officer, which is a junior officer, is carrying a taser. They had to scapegoat somebody. They cannot scapegoat the OPP that actually shot me head on because I was running towards the OPP. I had made a distress call to 911 only for the schmuck to shoot me in the arm and in the chest. How is that possible? The guy behind me is going to shoot me in the arm and in the chest. Clearly not. I was shot clearly by the OPP in front of me, because not every single cop in the municipalities is going to be allowed to carry tasers, So that's kind of where I am, and the story continues. Hallelujah. We went from energy to solar and talking about my box and why I believe I'm a subject of a targeted assassination or being a targeted individual myself. I'm no Nikola Tesla, but that does not mean that, the man and what he had provided and, gifted us, right, through his visionary, right, innovation, right, is a pioneer of his time, like light years ahead of his peers. We asked Einstein at the time, who is the smartest man, and the one answer was, ask Nikola Tesla. That's right, not the stooge Shilon's with a Tesla. It's not Tesla, it's Nikolai Tesla, right? Or Nikola Tesla, you know, if you say in Arabic, Nikola Tesla. So yeah, man, I'm here enjoying my time. Look, it's beautiful night, evening, and here we are. The battle continues because justice must be served. The hound of justice. It's not AJ here, man. I'm just a man, just like everybody else, gone through the slammer. You know, a lot of other inmates are still behind the bars, simply because, you know, they are being coerced into remand. They are waiting for their trial date to be set, and only for them to be able to speak before a judge. But now they have a duty counselor. They're trying to, you know, just you know, bend the rules and, you know, hush hush, you know, make a deal with the crown and the duty counselor, and, you know, this is your life. You know, they're at risk. You know, they're trading with your life as you stay in jail and wait for, you know, them to wake up one day. Forget it. You gotta take your own defense in your own hand, because if you cannot afford the lawyer, well, why do you have a lawyer? The lawyer is not going to represent your best interest. The lawyer is paid by the government, the same way the crown prosecutor is paid by the government. So you have the same, like father's paying the crown, I'm paying the duty counselor. So what the fuck, you know, clear conflict of interest. So now to make things better, right, I must go to Alberta because I have to be away from Ontario and Quebec because it's a judiciary fucked up system. So now I go back to Alberta after I have gone back to Alberta on the, you know, 16th of January. I embarked on a trip. I had just rented a car after being released unlawfully, right, from unlawful detention. I was being released from the psychic ward at Montfort Hospital after almost 4 days. They stripped me naked, right, and they have to shove 2 unlawful PRN injection. Where does this happen? What ground do you have? I did not consent to being unlawfully human trafficked and transported into a Frankenstein lab, so to speak, only for me to be injected 6 times. And I've been going through, you know, my ordeal at the time. Every day was a battle for me, and I got out on the 14th of January. I spent 2 days in front of the Russian consulate, right here, 52 Range Road, right, because I'm seeking political asylum to Russia. Why Russia? Well, I have a cousin. First of all, my uncle had passed away, but I have a cousin, and also, you know what? I stand with Russia. I stand with Palestine. I'm Palestinian. I stand with Syria. I stand with the world. I stand with humanity against genocide, against tyranny, oppression, and, you know, one world government that is designed, right? Designed. It's by design. The AI, the technocrats, all this shit. You see, listen, man, technology is good, but only if it's in the good hand. It's going to be evil if it's in the bad hand. This is why they can spy on you day, left, right, center. But AI has yet to come up and make a long, coherent video of AJ. This is why when I post, you know, you can try and bullshit AJ with some AI, but, you know, the video AI is not going to be the same as the original video recorded. You can easily tell if it's something AI generated versus actual video recording, because in AI there's always a signature how this video were produced. You know, if you're our unpaid user, you can get maybe 6 seconds or less than 10 seconds worth of a video based on some prompt, right? Prompt engineering, because now we can talk to the machine, and the machine will, you know, try and, you know, get to in a close visualization of what you're trying to, you know, tell the AI. But before the AI, there was the human intelligence, right? Unless you're a sheep, perhaps you outsource the ability to think for yourself because you are overcomplicating life. So with this, I'll leave this because I need to upload, and it's 38 minutes, you know, probably already long enough for most people. So I've covered many things. But basically in summary, you have the option, right, for a box, magic box, blue magic box, 24 hours, 7 days, 364 days a year, 7.2 kilowatt rated. I am building that box as we speak. I'm looking for the first 100 or so people. I'm looking for whoever wants to join this ship, because I no longer will stay in Canada. I'm not staying here, but I'm getting my remedies, restitution, truth and reconciliation. It's first truth, then reconcile. And all my travel plans and everything, because there are going to be some compensation, and it's not cheap. $100 million per millisecond. That's right. So now I'm claiming the name, right? The accused Ahmed Al-Shihabi, right, with my last name variation thereof, AL-SHEHABI or AL no dash, so space Shabi, so Al Shihabi, or just simply one word, Al Shihabi, ALSHEHABI, Ahmad, AHMAD. So again, I will be posting and using this video essentially, to reference hyperlink, right? But I'll be writing a document instructing. It's called executive order, because now I'm claiming my own sovereign jurisdiction under the Constitution of Canada, Section 92B and A Act 1867. You can go on, assert your own sovereign jurisdiction of the legal estate, the body, the mind, and the free will. You are the sole authorized chief executive of your bodily autonomy. Nobody can force you. That's why they always want your consent. But if you're the idiot or the desperate man who do not understand your rights, but sometimes you have to play the game. Like when you're in the slammer, there's no other recourse. Unless you're just a question of waiting until you find the right judge that, or justice of the peace to hear your story. And sometimes you'll be there for days. It happened to me. The first time around 6 days, I was denied justice. I basically got released with a unlawful bail conditions, which I tried to, submit a variation release, like a release variation form, only to be denied. And then going to my first court appearance on the 17th, only for me to be taken into custody detention for breach. Right now, breach of what? Well, there's a bench warrant because I had instructed my mother to revoke her surety. She's 68, pushing 69, and she needs to be not involved in this. I'm an innocent man. I can handle my own business. I'm responsible citizen, law-abiding citizen. I'm, going to be responsible for my own action. I take full accountability. I did nothing wrong. But now, when it's, the other side, when the government has done you wrong and they continue to act in bad faith, well, guess what? It used to be $1 million a minute. It used to be 2 years ago when I told them. Roughly last year, 2024, right? On the 24th of August 2024, I got 2 videos. $1 million a minute. Like I thought I was joking. But no, it's now $100 million a millisecond. That's right. Well, you got digital money. Fuck it. I don't care. The money has to be deposited. The equivalent of that, right? So I can go about my life and business here in North America. But now, for my device, I'm building and I'm selling. Any beneficiary, any early customers, essentially any early backer is going to be a beneficiary. 1 share, $1, face value, local currency. And that's my offer. It's a security deposit, $100. In 12 weeks or less, I will build this device. 12 weeks or less, I will build this device. And I will prove it to you that it works. How it works is none of your business. It works. If it works, it works. You will make sure that